In Ecuador, gunmen stormed a TV channel during a live broadcast. In the Netherlands, police discovered a torture chamber in a shipping container. What connects these incidents? It's cocaine and drug trafficking between Latin America and Europe.
Colombia has broken its own record for cultivating coca, the main ingredient of cocaine.
Huge increases in the amount of cocaine entering the continent through ports in Belgium and the Netherlands.
What's happening to us in terms of cocaine is quite historical. This really is a new thing, this onslaught of cocaine to Europe.
It has emerged as the most popular hard drug in Europe. This is making some very rich. For others, it has devastating consequences. But how exactly has Europe become a new hotspot for cocaine? Let's start in Berlin, a city known for its club scene and its drug consumption. Cocaine is high on the consumers' list. The highly addictive drug pushes you to the highest highs or the lowest lows. The drug has never been easier to get. In Berlin, like in many other cities, you can order it via messenger apps. People here are willing to pay around 50 euros per half gram. And coke taxis are delivering the cocaine right to their doorstep. Reliable data about the use of cocaine is hard to come by. After all, it is an illicit hard drug, so neither dealers nor consumers want to brag about numbers. But it's in Europeans' urine and sewers where authorities really learn about cocaine consumption. More cocaine residues are found there. These cities regularly scan their wastewaters for drugs. The bigger the circles, the more cocaine was detected there. And residues have almost tripled since 2015. There are several reasons for the rise of cocaine use in Europe. But one thing is clear: more of it is available than ever before. So why is cocaine flooding into Europe just now? To understand it, we will travel from Europe to Latin America and back. First of all, it's about big money. Smuggling cocaine to Europe is risky, but for organized crime, it's totally worth it.
The most lucrative chain is the moving of the cocaine from Latin America to Europe. This is where the big money is. This is where everybody wants to get involved.
Jeremy McDermott heads a think tank researching organized crime in the Americas, based in Medellin, Colombia. A kilogram of cocaine in Colombia sells for $2,000 but when it moves abroad, it's worth way more than that.
The average price of a kilo of cocaine in the United States is between, depending on point of entry, between $16,000 and $25,000, whereas that same kilo is worth at least $30,000, even as high as more than $40,000 in Europe. There is the increased cost in simply moving it across the Atlantic. The United States is much easier to reach.
So this means a lot of people can earn money by smuggling cocaine to Europe. We will get to this part of the story a bit later. But what you need to know now is that Europe is a growing, up-and-coming market for cocaine. And it is catching up with the stagnating market in North America, especially the US. Europe is also more attractive for drug traffickers because penalties for drug offenses are less severe than in the US, for example. And controls have not been as tough. But with more cocaine flooding Europe's harbors, this is changing. And authorities have celebrated record busts in the past years. The largest single seizure in Europe was in Hamburg, Germany, in 2021. 16 tons of cocaine, worth up to 3.5 billion euros. And then we have Antwerp, Belgium's biggest port. Customs here seized 116 tons of cocaine in total in 2023, also a record. But researchers say more busts also mean more trafficking. So seizing more drugs is not necessarily a reason to celebrate.
I started really being concerned that, well, this is crazy. Something big is happening here.
Laurent Laniel is following the growing influx of cocaine to Europe in the EU Drugs Agency in Lisbon, Portugal.
All the logistics of the trade, the raw material for the trade, the cocaine itself, everything has been scaled up and directed to Europe.
So let's travel across the Atlantic to where cocaine is coming from, Latin America. Coca plants are mainly grown in Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia. The plants thrive best in mountain and jungle areas. Cocaine is extracted from their leaves. They have long been used as a mild stimulant in Latin America. Colombia has traditionally been the biggest producer, and it was here where a special peace deal shook up the cocaine market. In 2016, the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or FARC, agreed to lay down their arms after 50 years of rebellion. The FARC's initial goal was to replace the Colombian democratic government with an agrarian communist rule. But the reason we are talking about them is cocaine. They got involved in the business to fund their activities.
The FARC, by 2016, controlled and regulated anything up to 70% of the coca fields and coca base production in Colombia, which means they were essentially a one-stop shop for cocaine buyers.
With FARC gone, it was a free-for-all. The criminal landscape fragmented into a more competitive market. More gangs being involved is one of the reasons why more coca is planted and harvested in Colombia. And more gangs also mean more violence in Latin America, as many smaller groups now fight for control over the production chain.
Latin America has, I think, is about 8% of the world's population, and it has more than 30% of its homicides. This is in no small part due to the drug trade.
Recently, one country in particular has been dragged knee-deep into the dirty drug game.
Claro, el Ecuador ha pasado de creerse a sí mismo una isla de paz a convertirse en un territorio que está ocupado o que es utilizado por todos los grupos criminales.
This is Carla Alvarez, a security expert who's been following the situation in her country very closely.
Está rodeado de todos los principales productores de hoja de coca y cocaína del mundo.
Crime has spread across the country in the past years. Violence, corruption, homicides. In 2023, a presidential candidate was assassinated. He was campaigning against organized crime. So what does this small South American country have to do with the growing influx of cocaine to Europe? To explain, we have to go to Ecuador's biggest harbor, Guayaquil. And we must dive deep into another business. Ecuador is the world's largest exporter of bananas. The fruit is shipped from Guayaquil and smaller ports to Europe and the world. And these boxes are apparently the perfect place to hide and smuggle cocaine. That's why some have dubbed the fruit coming from Ecuador Narcobananas. Traffickers use veggies in fruit exports because they need to go through customs very quickly before they rot. They count on their products not to stand out in the vast volumes of global trade. Tens of millions of containers are arriving in Europe every year, and less than 10% of them are checked.
The container trade has changed the game. This has given a boost to the trade that's incredible because the traffickers have been able to parasite this legitimate trade between the two continents to put their merchandise in it and retrieve it when they arrive here.
But authorities are stepping up controls. Containers from some countries are more likely to get checked.
The containers coming from Colombia are routinely red flagged. The principal transit nations, like Panama and Ecuador, Also, containers routinely red flagged. From some of the Brazilian ports, routinely red flagged.
So smugglers are looking for new points of departure.
We're seeing way more drugs now go to the Caribbean. We're seeing them move further up through Central America to places like Costa Rica, which is seeing increased violence. We're seeing them move further down to Argentina, Uruguay, even Chile.
And then the cocaine crosses the Atlantic and finally reaches Europe. In the past, Spain was the main arrival point because it's close. But traffickers are increasingly moving to Europe's biggest ports in the north, Rotterdam in the Netherlands, Antwerp in Belgium, and Hamburg in Germany, because this is where most containers go. From these hubs, criminals distribute cocaine all over Europe. Smugglers also got more creative.
Cocaine is often smuggled in liquid form, hidden in wines or spirits or the liquid in batteries. It's even sprayed on clothing like jeans.
Se ha encontrado pues como cocaína líquida en las paredes ocultas de los containers, en los pisos falsos, etc.
The liquefied drug later has to be recrystallized into cocaine. This is why the authorities are discovering a growing number of cocaine laboratories in Europe. And this also means that European mafias are playing a more important role in the global cocaine business.
Started with the Italians, then the Dutch, now the Serbs and the Albanians are here.
They are the profiteers, but others have to suffer the consequences, because drug-related violence is now spreading in Europe. In Antwerp, the Belgian harbour city, an 11-year-old girl died in a drug-related shooting in 2023. Dutch journalist Peter de Vries was killed in Amsterdam in 2021, believed to be motivated by his investigations into cocaine trafficking. A year before, Dutch police found a torture chamber hidden in a shipping container, an underworld prison built by a drug gang. And next to violence comes another blight.
It does seem that corruption is increasing in Europe, or at least we are seeing corruption where before we didn't see it. The drugs trade, wherever, at whatever time, it works with corruption and violence. Because it's illegal, there is no courts, you can't turn to the police.
And finally, Europe is not the end of the cocaine trail.
I think we can now say that Europe is a transit place for cocaine destined for other markets, in the Middle East, in Asia.
Remember the wholesale prices we mentioned before? Well, they rise the further the traffickers go. A kilogram of cocaine sells, for example, for $56,000 in Pakistan or $68,000 in Qatar. Strong incentives for criminals to go further. Cocaine is a multi-billion-dollar criminal industry, and it seems to be getting out of control. So what could be done about it?
Everyone talks about legalization and taking the money out of criminal hands and putting it into legal hands. That, of course, is politically unacceptable. So there's not really much point talking about it.
Instead, the authorities are trying to get ahead of the criminals.
Cocaine trade is a network affair. So also we need to work more with authorities in Latin America, police, customs, law enforcement side, but not only, also the demand side, the policy side.
Because finally, it's also about the users in Europe and beyond.
La oferta por sí sola no puede ser completamente responsabilizada del fenómeno, ¿no? Hay una oferta y hay una demanda.
As long as people crave the next high, there will always be somebody willing to risk everything to get a share of the big money.